Welcome to Faith Talk Discussion The Blessing. Today I'm going to be talking about parents knowing their children doings, associations, involvements, and safety, and all whatever much more about teenagers and violence. The education of this today in Faith Talk The Blessing. We are in times that's not like they used to be. It's very important to bring forth what things God want people to know. Purpose of my faith talk discussion, the blessing. The faith talk discussion, the blessing is concerning when people are teenagers, any age, going the wrong direction. They think it's all right what they feel until something happens, a consequence or problems, circumstances, decisions cause them to be in situations they need help. They need guidance. They need now to go through some things they can't escape. And that's in many areas that can be in jail or in prison, hard places. As time go, if their habits and problems and guidance not given from parents teaching and leading them, discussions with them and who they running with, and much more in the environments with safety to none. It doesn't matter who you know live around you, where you go to school at, or whatever else, your parents should always be involved, knowing their children. We tend to go by things we think. We look at things the way people say or do, but are they real in their sayings to who they are? You got to definitely be on things that educate your child in every way and growing up in this path. Why God said in Proverbs, train up a child in the way they should go. They should not depart from it. And that means when they get older or grown, they'll remember the things taught and they'll grow some more in their way of remembering to think about before they get involved, before they follow people, before they be influenced by any diverse people. It doesn't matter who they are. They all got their pros and cons, and they should be looking very careful, knowing about positive relationships to negative relationships in teenager state, to middle schools, to elementary. They're old enough to know. Even you have younger children in first, second, and third, or kindergarten and pre, they even have an instinct to know when something isn't right. And we should all be educating the children of all ages, those that understand, the youth, to what much more. To those that don't understand, and a youth way of disabilities, that's for their parents to be over things, connecting with the right people, knowing who they are involved with, and not just swinging out with anything, anyone, whatever, connecting, don't know what's in them, don't matter if they teenagers, any age. They all got their thoughts, what people can't see. Sometimes you deceived by people and things you think, what you see them out like, what you connect to feel like. Your feelings has nothing to do with it. It's about living real life, taking in what God knows all about diverse, to know what's right in it, to what isn't, despite of what we feel about it, what we think about it, what we know of them out. Don't mean that to be the way they're thinking in. I'm the host, Donna Herring, with a human service degree, understanding people, behaviors in different environments, from behavior analysis and psychology, from in any other form of human relationships, positive, healthy to unhealthy, to know in all ages how they are to be, from development in that what way they should do in anything good to bad in their life, and coming into, to learning into, to experiencing things till they get in the right path to do, or striving to get on things you may be not at in life. You have to have, and you got to keep pushing till you get it accomplished, and living to anything relating to their living, to doing out at careers or jobs, whatever it might be, to mates, to whatever, to in God's way versus that. So now, to talk is about, I'm going to have to talk about teenagers' violence, but I'm going to be giving 3 areas, 3 parts. It may be 2 more parts to this because I'm going to go through what teenager violence is about. Then I'm going to give you um, 3 areas. Part 1 is going to be teenagers and violence once I explain what it is, what's now, what's not, why are teenagers especially at risk today, like people was going through in times and wasn't no trouble like this. They made it through some didn't. How we can give help, how I can give help in areas of what to do in the research and the material I have in that to help parents look at things going on. Don't get sidetracked. What's important in your life is all important in your life, what you do, but you got children attached with you or in your care with you. You have to be accountable to know what they're doing with who they're running with, no matter what diverse race it is. You still should be aware because of what people go through. We all been through things. Doesn't have nothing to do with that. It's about you knowing the facts. The second part would be what are the risks in teenagers and balance. I will come with it will be discussed fighting, how solving conflicts and handling anger in the part 2, peer pressure, personal safety, guns and other weapons, alcohol and drugs, media violence, dating violence. If your child has been injured or you suspect a problem from why they was injured, beat up, and wounded by someone in a peer way they don't want to talk about it, things they let others do to them, control them, improper doings from no one else, right? Any age of being in a human way has no right to control nobody but themselves. And the third part would be reducing the risk of teenagers and violence. What can you do? This will be discussed in this part. Try to be a good example. Talk, but mostly to your parent. Get other people to help. Continue to set a few essential limits and keep trying. It's a struggle when you're up against peers and influences. You want to be recognized. You want to fit in. You want to be popular. You want everybody to know about you. But some of your influence can be in a good way of learning and be a bad way in doing things with relationships they're involved with. That's to throw people off, distract them, and they seeing that and finding they didn't know that person was negative as a teenager, and they're looking at all the popularity. Those sometimes it don't be this way with those doing successful that way, and some it can be doing well in a lot of things in their living, to their education, and have poor way of doing things out with other. And I want to express the reason why I have on this uh, green ribbon is Mental Health Awareness Month in the month of May, and that's why I have it on, being Mental Health Awareness Month for all. It's in professional field to people to be educated on it and much more in the behavior of way people think, the things they do, in all kind of forms and how things should be. So that's why the green ribbon and the green is on me today. Just wanted to bring that out, that important. Again, I'm the host, Donna Herring. My degree in education is in human service to understand about humans in doing in many all forms of manner with from the mind, physical way, to involving in all ages and things we know what they should do, how they should be, how they should respond in doing many things. They should be accountable for it. Parents doing their part, keeping listening to them. Don't ignore your children. Listen to them. Now you should know if your children or teenagers lie. You should know if the little ones making up stories to get attention, just to be heard, or getting someone to come in someone way may not have done nothing, said nothing, or knowing no or don't know them in no way. So you have to be examining things they tell you versus knowing the truth and things they come and share with you in circumstances they don't know how to respond, make good choices or decisions. That's why the parents should be all the way in it, walking and talking with them, walking or in the home before they go out to school, during the weekends, getting more love to them every day, love, attention, time, all this value in the experience and relation with your youth and children, doing things in the house with them, having things for them to go out and do on the weekend if your schedule busy. Of course, we know schools are out now. The school system is out. And now they should have things for them to do. Besides, if they're at home, that's good, a time to be in with them on the weekends. Then times they can share with their associations out, spending the night, relatives. And then they can go do things they like to do with family or just in general if they're old enough to do it alone. All these things matter in children. They learning things while they out. They learning around their family how they are with each other. They learning from each other, coming to each other houses, how they do different from theirs, things they do, and they grow from every path, everything they're around, to people they communicate with, and all diverse to their own culture and things they do. But now some things we can use in places and they have to be going on from times ago. Things change often and all the time. Updates in God in the human way to be aware of things they may not know He do, to bring out through many different ways of people in the community, professional, to on the media of the news, to churches bringing things up in the way God give the leaders, many other leaders in the community, public services, and many other ways. We learn and we grow all around global, local, and things important about these things happening in this area to much more. So these three parts may come in three different sections. They may not come all at once, but one at a time will. Part one, part two, part three. In this teenager and balance, parents should always be aware and alert where their children at, who they involved with, who in the school system, schools are out, to in the neighborhoods, no matter what people seem to look like, act like, irrelevant, don't mean that's who they gotta be. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not. You keep being observant. You keep watching your children and what they do. Take numbers and who they're going to. Know the parent who they're going to. Interact with them every once in a while to know their children and understand so you all can communicate. Working on things may not be going right with the peers that they run with to them that they don't know. That's for the parents to get in and do something about it. So today I'm going to give you some bits about the teenagers and balance before we go into a section of part one. So what's now and what's now and what's new of teenagers and balance. All parents, all parents want their children to be safe from crime, from needless injury, from being hurt by other people. Many parents of teenagers worry that their children may become victims of violence, and with good reasons A recent U.S. Justice Department survey showed that not teenagers shows that teenagers are at risk of becoming victims of violent crimes such as robbery, assault, and rape. In fact, 1 in 8 teenagers between 12 and 15 years old will become victims of violence, more than double the rate of the total population, and violence among young people has been increasing at a faster rate than any other age group. Our news and entertainment media often seems full of alarming reports of street crime, drugs, drive-by shootings, and domestic and sexual abuse. Sometimes it can be hard to separate the myth from the realities, but the facts are pretty clear. Violence can happen anywhere. It's not an urban problem. Reports of street crime, drugs, drive-by shooting, and domestic and sexual abuse. Sometimes it can be hard to separate the myth from the reality, but the facts are pretty clear. Violence can happen anywhere. It's not just an urban problem. People who live in suburbs and the country experience violence at a rate that is only about 1/3 lower than those who live in the inner city. Violence usually occur among young people who know each other, while parents often worry about their children being harmed by a stranger, an unknown mug, kidnapper, robber, or rapist. Most injuries from violence are caused by people who know or related to each other. Violence is nothing new. Robberies, assaults, and murder have existed for centuries, and adults and teenagers has been fighting for generations over issues and problems like being harassed, bullied, disrespected, or called names. When the difference for safety for today teenagers is that the, the stakes are higher than ever before. There have been dramatic increase in the types of rates of violence among young people, and the consequence of making a bad choice are more serious than ever. When most of today's parents were growing up, unprotected sex might have been meant pregnancy. Now it can mean AIDS. Marijuana might have meant getting high. Now crack cocaine can mean getting addicted or dying after one use. After one use, see what I mean? So a fight after school might have meant getting someone bruises. Now it's meant getting stabbed or shot. Our teenagers are at risk from violence that takes place in our schools, in our homes, and in our neighborhoods. Mhm. Why are teenagers especially at risk? Adolescence is a time of big emotional, physical, and intellectual changes. During the teenager years, most children begin to pull away from their parents. They begin to develop their own ideas, to be aware of their own sexuality, and their start making their own choices. They start to find their friends and other people in the world more interesting and more important. This is all normal, healthy part of growing up. But some of the very things that are normal about the very teenagers' growth and change can be also put them at risk. They're more independent, they're more active, they're not mobile, they're more affected by other people. They're more thought that they are grown up. They have not always had the experience or developed through the scene of grown up as they think they are, the judgment they need to make safe choice. Our children, when they are enter that teenager years or more, vulnerable than any other time, engaging in dangerous or violent behavior, and to being victims of danger or violent behavior. Your relationship with your teenager is probably changing right now, and that's normal too as a parent. Your child is becoming an adult. It's hard to generalize about teenagers, of course, like all people. They are individuals with their own strength and weakness. But generally, if you try to think about what's normal for most teenagers and look at the things through your own teenager eyes, it may help you guide your growing child towards safety, responsible choices. It's normal for teenagers to want to break away from their parents and family and form close friends with other teenagers and adults. Most adolescents have very mixed feelings about themselves, and those feelings can make them very sensitive to the approval or disapproval of others. The opinions of other peers usually become increasingly important to them. It's normal for teenagers to experiment and take risks. Most teenagers try out the way of behaving as easy as they are or try on different sets of clothes. They need to experience in order to grow and involve some risks. Some of these risks can be safe, others may be life threatening. Teenagers can't always tell the difference. And simply because they lack life experiences. Even the most responsible teenagers can believe they're invulnerable. They may not understand their that while dyeing your hair may not hurt you, getting into it with someone who's been drinking can kill you. You see? It's normal for teenagers to question you and your values as they learn to become adults who can form their own opinions and make their own judgments. Teenagers are usually trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong. They often want things to be black and white, and it can be difficult, especially for parents, to get them to understand and deal with reality that much of the world can be gray. As teenagers try out new behaviors and examine new ideas, It's easy for them to become impatient with their imperfect parents. As parents, we usually respond to those changes in our children in different ways. Sometimes we want to withdraw, throw up our hands, and assume our teenagers will be okay. It seems unsafe than arguing with them and experiencing rejection. Sometimes we want to hold on even tighter. Making demands on our teenagers and criticizing their new ideals and behaviors. It's not always easy to find the balance between keeping them safe and giving them room to grow. So it's not, again, always easy balancing between keeping them safe and giving them room to grow. But no matter how we react, our real job as parents during the risky time in our children's life is to be there for them, to listen or guide, to set a few clear rules and boundaries, to let them know that we value and think, and to try to give them a place where they can feel accepted and supported. As I go along with teenagers and balance, we will get the point out. I'm giving you now what we're coming into and why it's important in the part one, part two, part three. How these things will help. It will give reasons what to do about it to prevent by communication always involved, keeping a support open to them when they need to talk, to listen, continue to give love in the home and care, doing your part for them to trust, to come to you, and not seek anyone else to go to or not the parent. Always make them aware in your communications to talk with someone in knowing in the home, mother, father, or mother alone. If mother alone, single, need to get involved with a counselor, connect them in programs to keep them in the right path in youth, that they don't fall in things they shouldn't be in, is very important. Along with other things involving in your neighborhoods, if you're bring along to you in the violence, who they pretty much happen, these things happen is from people who they know. These things are not happening from people you don't know with your teenagers. These are people who've been around who they know. You may not have met who they know around who they know, and that can break out into a physical injury, a harm way to beat them up bad, or kill them, put them on drugs, excuse me, or have them aiming at people with others in the neighborhood being problematic. If you don't have them doing anything constructively, positively, children don't have to sit at home. They have a right to be out of school and feel they've been away from parents, going and coming and need that time to feel they still connected and close in that way. I understand. But they still need to have things to do. You don't have to pay for everything they do. It's free things out there for them to do. They don't have to be in things if the parent don't have it. Often things are changing in the living to much more. These things are very essential for parents to have something to do or show their children how to live, how they watch their life, how they see them talk and communication. They learning from them too. They learning from you, who you associate with, how you do things, how you manage things. They listen to what kind of music, what kind of things you do with who you with, all around you. Wherever you go, they're paying attention to everything about you. So now I'm getting ready to bring about this briefly in this final part of summing up. before I go into prayer, but this is the detail about teenagers and balance. This is for parents to know in this, coming with this educating in the faith talk discussion, the blessing. Final part, our teenagers need help and the help of other caring adults. And that helps is there. There are resources can be used and all around to find them for help to keep them right, to know the right way of dealing with things with their peers and what to do if they're in situations don't know what to do. There are skills they can learn. There are things that they can do together. Our teenagers need to become independent. They need to go out and explore the world. Our teenagers need to become independent. They need to go and out in the world again and explore the world. They won't always have adults around to help them make their choices. Our challenge is to understand the risks that we educate on today towards safe place, people, and activities and help them develop the judgment they need to make their own right choices, wise choices. So this was given a brief detail about what this is about in parents being involved at all times before we go into what are the risks in this matter. And that was part one, getting you through and what that meant and what it is about in the reason of bringing these matters concerning your youth and balance, understanding who they're associating with. Parents should always, whether they little ones to big ones, because even some of the people in your neighborhood, children, because they live around you, you still need to know who they are, how they do different from you. Are they okay for your children to associate with? Are they all right? Long as you got the eye contact in it, you're good. We did part one today, and we'll go into part two a little, and we're going to part two today. But first, before we go into part two, what are the risks of your teenagers and balance? Let's go into this prayer. The prayer to walk in God's wisdom and his perfect will. Father, I thank you that the communication of my faith becomes effectual by acknowledging every good thing which is in me in Christ Jesus. I hear the voice of the good shepherd. I hear my Father's voice, and the voice of a stranger it will not follow. Father, I believe in my heart and say with my mouth that this day the will of God is done in my life. This is what you would say with your children and the parent as well. I walk in a manner worthy of you, Lord, fully pleasing to you and desiring to please you in all things, bearing fruit in every good work. Jesus has made unto me wisdom. I single-mindedly walk in the wisdom, expecting to know what to do in every situation and to be on top of every circumstance. I roll my work upon you, Lord, and you make my thoughts agreeable to yours, your will. And so my plans are established and succeed. You direct my steps and make them sure. I understand and firmly grasp what the will of the Lord is, for I am not vague, thoughtless or foolish. I stand firm and mature in spiritual growth, convinced and fully assured in everything willed by God. Father, you have destined my life and appointed me to come progressively to know your will. That is to perceive, to recognize more strongly and clearly, and to become better and more intimately acquainted with your will. I thank you, Father, for the Holy Spirit who abides permanently in me and who guides me into all truth, the whole full truth, and speaks whatever he hears from the Father and announces and declares to me the things that are to come. I have the mind of Christ and hold the thoughts, feelings, and purpose of his heart. So, Father, I am entering into this that blessed rest by hearing and trusting and relying on you in the name of Jesus. Hallelujah. Amen. Now we're getting ready to go into what are the risks of youth and teenagers. The prayer was said is for everyone that listens to this faith talk discussion, a blessing to parents, to those the single parent, to those in a couple parent, to wherever you at, wherever this at. This prayer is for everyone to listens to this. So now we are going into part two. I did part one. What are the risks? Like teenagers themselves, it can be hard to generalize about the dangers they may face. It would be impossible to catalog all of the possible situations your teenager may encounter. But there are some general risks that teenagers are likely to face and some specific steps you can take to help your teenager deal with them. That's why it's always important for a parent to be involved with their child. Fighting and solving conflicts and handling anger. Parents can be involved with that and guiding them in all manner of decision to whatever circumstance they go in. Keep that open communication. Very important not to ignore them and it come to something you didn't want or expect. We'll do a little part two today and complete the other part for next week. Part two and three can be together, or complete part two or part two and three together. We'll come with that. So no two people can agree about everything all the time. Conflicts is normal, natural part of human relationships. And anger is a normal human emotion, a feeling we all experience. But teenagers, feelings and reactions, like the bodies are often growing bigger, they don't always know how to manage their feelings. So as you can see, they don't always manage it right. It pops out in a fight or violence to kill or injure or a gang jump on them, like a bunch of them team up on them or bully them. Let's go further into what the completion of part two is, and then I will come back on the other part of part two, and then we'll get to three. This is complete after I do this. It's complete what I've got in my materials. Knowing how to handle anger and deal with conflicts without getting into a fight can be important for everyone. Adults in the workplace, kids in school, to parents and teenagers in homes. But the increasing rate of violence among young people means that handling anger effectively can especially be important for today's teenager as they grow and experiment and take risks. Most of us don't want our children to either be passive victims or violent bullies. We want them to be safe and out of trouble. Some people deal with anger by avoiding it, some, and they usually get more of our attention, react with progression and balance. They listen to someone who is angry without getting frightened or angry themselves. They keep themselves calm and keep thinking clearly under stress. They try to talk and listen to think about what needs to be done to resolve conflicts, to connect and communicate. And they know when to walk away if a conflict seems to be getting out of control. Try some of the real steps of conflict resolutions here. One of the ways we can help our children be safe, it is by helping them learn to deal effectively with anger and conflict. The basic steps of solving any conflict successfully are the same, whether you're a teenager who's just been insulted in the cafeteria or at the same, whether you're a teenager who's just been uh, feeling someone is harassing them, whether you're a teenager who's dealing with a coworker or a neighbor or your own child. If you watch and hear what I'm saying in this situation, you will learn how to handle conflict safely and successfully. Conflict resolution is not just a lesson for kids to learn at school, and it is not something that needs third person or a mediator to work. The basic step of conflict resolution are ideas we can all use. And since it's pretty likely that no matter how loving your relationship is, you and your child will experience some conflicts during the teenager years. You can start by practicing the skills, thinking, listening, problem solving with your own teenager. By using them together, you'll be helping your teenager learn them too. First, keep cool, keep calm to try to get your own feelings under control. Don't meet anger with anger. When you are angry, it is very hard for you to think clear and communicate as a parent. Understand that other person is upset. So by the situation or something else in his life or your life. And fighting may be the attempt to solve the problem. Reduce anger of your teenager for them to feel better. Be aware of certain things that cause triggers. Fights in certain situations for teenagers. These teenagers might include alcohol, drugs, insulting someone, swearing, talking about family members, racial or ethnic slurs, and so on. Try to recognize the triggers for what they are. Request by the other person to solve the conflict by fighting because that is what he think will work best for them. And it don't fighting don't resolve it. All the other things we mentioned don't. So state your understanding of the problem. Assure your child that you are not or can get them help in it. Tell them you don't want to settle the issue by want them to settle the issue by fighting. This is a time to apologize, express them how to handle it while you're being calm all the way through it. If you did something that offended him or the person out there, lead them how to manage it. Number three, think about the choices. You're talking with your peer. The parent's going to stay calm. Think before you act. What are all the possible ways to solve a problem? Can you calm that person down? Can someone else help and the other person unable to listen to you now because he's too angry? Do you need to walk away? What else can you do? Keep your own self respect. Try to respect the other person. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to like them, but you do have to deal with this problem. Remember, your attitude may be more important than your words. Do the right thing. Pick the response that's most likely to solve the problem. Try to choose a solution that will benefit both you and make it both feel better. This is for the peers with this matter with their own youth, wherever they might be, to wherever else. Remember, you're the teacher without even thinking about in your probably giving messages to your children every day about how to handle conflicts, the way you handle frustrations, the way you deal with problems, the way you respond to stress can help your child learn how to handle frustration in a calm and nonviolent manner. Think about the message you may have already given about fighting. Many parents used to tell their children, don't start any fights, but be sure you finish them. But that can make a child more likely to be injured in a world where more and more teenagers are willing to fight and more carry handguns. A safe message might be, I don't want you fighting with anyone ever. I want you to be able to size up a conflict, handle your anger, keep yourself calm, and try to communicate with the person who's trying to fight with you. It is easy to fight. It often takes bigger person to think and walk away from a fight. Think about how the family handles conflicts at home. There's a clear connection between the violence in the home and the violence on the streets. And there's no question that the way you and your family treat each other will influence your teenage behavior outside your home. A certain amount of conflict in any family is healthy. It makes us express our feelings instead of hiding them. It forces us to think about and what we believe and pushes us to see our difference. Resolving conflicts can actually help a family understand and become more tolerant of one another. But conflict in a family is not helpful, or healthy if it is constant, if it often always goes unresolved, or if it's take risks in a form of a personal verbal attacks or physical violence. If the conflicts in your family has reached a point where it simply can't stop, it's time to get outside assistance from someone who can step in to help you break the pattern. A friend, another family member, a member of a clergy, your company, employee, assistant, program, or a professional counselor. Remember, it's a myth that only bad kids causes fights. Even if your teenager has never been involved in a fight, it's, it's important to talk about fighting and responsibility. It's true, for instance, that only a small percent of teenagers cause most of the fights in schools, but so called good kids also participate in fights. If they spread rumors, encourage other kids to fight, show up at a place to watch a fight, or tell their children they will help them out if they get into a trouble with a fight. If they want to see a fight, if they spread the rumor, if they encourage the fight, then they are also partly responsible for the fight happening. Try to find out what's going on at your child's school. You can be sure the teacher and administrators of your teenagers' school share your concerns about your fighting and safety. Ask them what you can do as a parent to support your child school violence prevention efforts. Let them know you want to work with them to do the best things for your teenagers. It's worth trying to find out if the school teaches conflict resolution skills. The guidance counselor or assistant principal is usually a good person to ask if you know what your teenager is learning at school. It can give you an easy way to stay involved in your teenager's life. As well as help, you know what message and lesson you can reinforce in your home. If you like more about knowing about conflict resolution programs for your teenagers, there are several organizations or many organizations in all states, 50 states global, all around to local, in prevention programs for schools and other community groups to knowing how to help teenagers in the community to prevent these things, being ahead of how to stop before it come bad out. What parents are not educated out. They go by their normal parenting way of dealing. And sometimes them things can be very complicated for some to get frustrated with. Just when they don't know, they call the police and they get that in to break it up. But that'll help when they call the law. If they don't, and that'll bring child protective and welfare service in it, like social workers, human service social workers involved with Franklin County Children's Services to get in it, and the others will be involved in their area in it, if it's criminal justice or the legal system of juvenile, to them in the home involved in what's going on with a lot of things. Parents may be doing their best and it ain't them. And their youth got in things the parents wasn't involved with them to keep a pace with what's wrong. Then it could be both parties in why the things are going wrong. The child in a home with a parent and things they're not paying attention to them. They doing what they got to do and not involved with nothing with them. That can cause these things to come too. Being around with them, letting their youth run with all kind of people, teenagers, I mean, in the school grounds to neighborhoods, and that's how a lot of this stuff happens. They're not knowing what they do, and these things get worse and worse till they find their children in something they got to go and get involved to find out how they got it in it. That's when these things turn that way in the school grounds. principals and teachers all work together to be the eyes of one another, even though they're doing their work with them all. They let them know what's going on. To the assistants in the classroom, instructional aides, to be involved with the teachers, seeing things going on, keeping notes of students' doings and academics to doings, involving on the playground in their behaviors, all kind of things. How good they behave to the way they're not doing so well, with a good day to a bad day. Who's involved with them day in, day out to school is totally out. What report comes home daily gives them a record. Then when they get overall report cards for that period, what schools give them in, then they can know the things happening from that way to what's on their report cards, how it got that way, from academics to them and things going on in the school with peers, and all that comes together to sum it up. At the end of the year, it'll show where parents are at, with where their youth is at in doings, to the end about a successful improvement. They're giving room to improve while they're going through this before school is totally out. They have room to improve before it's out, and it gives them time to meet with parent teacher conference day in their child's needing help in things academics, to behavior way, to things with peer way. All that's important in involvement with your youth in the school, if they're in community activities and programs, and if they're involved in a neighborhood. You should be alert by having numbers to them parents. Y'all ain't got to talk if you ain't a talker, but text and things. You'll eventually meet up, but you definitely want to know what's what. Now, if it ain't none of these issues going on, then you're good at what's happening. Not every parent don't have to do that. Some automatically know this way, don't have to get in this. It's the ones we educating to know. If you don't know how to resolve the conflicts of things happening in your youth life, then we're giving you knowledge on it today. And Babe Talk Discussion, the blessing. I'm the host, Donna Herring, with the human service expertise to agree on these things we know, and how relationships should be healthy to unhealthy, and involving with youth and their doings, to how parents should be involved with all manner of knowing their youth, things they do good to bad, where it's coming from, who they're involved with, and so on. So now we're coming on peer pressure. Peer pressure for most teenagers' relationship with people that of their own age are particular important. They're trying to define who they are, and friends and peers can help them. And the definition, having at least one or two friends or being part of a group, is important to most teenagers. It helps them to feel they are liked and respected. The threat of rejection by the peers can be very real, very frightening, and can make them particularly likely to be influenced by pressures from other people. Peer pressure can work both ways. Other people can push your child toward risky behavior, but they can also create a caring and supportive group that wants to provide good things for your child. A sense of belonging and other people they can be with a talk to when they feel alone. Parents sometimes think my kid would be fine. Unfortunately, the kind of thinking may sometimes turn the very people who can help you most into your enemies. Your child, friends, and their parents can be allies in raising your child to be safe and successful. Try to know your Try to know your child's friend as a parent. One way you can stay involved in your teenager's life is getting to know the people she or he spend time with. The techniques you can use will depend on you and your teenager and the friends. Get involved with community professionals. Know these things to give you something to go with or learn from to help you go by. And if each time you do it works it works well, and it don't work the next time, you go to them to get something else because it's gonna benefit you to keep the pace till then. Once these things don't work in the form you want, then you're gonna start beginning to bring it to someone else to get involved after you done went a while with all the recommendations, with all the things given, and it just seemed like people are doing things they want. So they're going with others' influences they're around. People leading them in the wrongdoings, and that's when you're not being involved with them. Who they associate with can do the same thing, and they just ain't caring about their children and letting cursing and doing everything that ain't right. And poor example of doing negatives. If they ain't doing that, their actions that way. If they mouth ain't that way, and they learning while they learn what they see and hear. They will repeat all what they see and hear. They ain't got to talk with them about it. They learn it from home versus wherever else they go out. People, they looking for what's right. But if it's in the home chaotic and people acting that way, they ain't got to be cursing. They learning they negatives. And they'll soon be repeating what their behavior's negative, their actions negative. Teenagers picking it up. Any age picking it up. They do what they do, where they come from in homes. And you don't want that. You should show them how to deal with things at home, how you deal with conflicts with others, in the house to out around you to where you go. That's it. Other things they watching how you deal with or do in out with. So, and let's go on to this next one. Try to know the friends and parents. Talking with other parents in groups or individually can help you and your teenager understand one another. How to deal when some they don't know from your child, from you not knowing from theirs. All these things help connecting with them. Share your feelings honestly with your teenager. You can't choose your child friend for them, but that does not mean you have to like all their friends. Other Otherwise, state your opinion about them in a calm way, truthful way, so your teenager will know what you like and don't like about their friends. You may not need to worry about it. Chance are your child friend are going to be either kids in a healthy way or an unhealthy way. These things are important for you to know. It ain't just being a parent over children and they just doing what they want and you ain't involved with nothing and they get in these places and go the wrong path from school decisions because you're not involved with the education at home. Help with the school to involve to get them in places like the library, helping if they not seeming to relate, accomplish what they there for. Teachers have the resources, library have the resources, and so many others in the community in leadership help in these ways with tutorings in the church and all other places that around try to reach out to youth, knowing they're vulnerable to things they have not, they lack experiences in life, experiences, why they make sometimes wrong decisions, thinking they're right and find they're not right, and that helps them to get into the right way they need to get. Now, let's go and get into another reason what to do. Excuse me. So, when it comes to dealing with peer pressure, your teenager's best friends may be his or her self esteem and self confidence. Sometimes peer pressure can be difficult for teenagers, especially when friends encourage them to do something dangerous or wrong. It can be very hard to say no and take a stand against a friend. As it does many other situations, your child's sense of self worth may help them more or most when it comes to dealing with pressure from other people. Other people. If he or she strong has strong opinions and feels capable of defending them, it will be much easier for them to take an unpopular position, to make a responsible choice, to say no. And some look dangerous, to something can cause hurt to them. And they can tell the person, no, I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to do that. I don't think that's right, or I don't feel comfortable doing that. It's hard for some to say that. Others get in it and go right along with them and follow with them, be in a lot with them. And it disappoints the parent because if you was knowing who they running with, communicating with in your neighborhoods to wherever they go active in other places with, you would know how to catch it by constantly talking, keeping open communication with your youth and children to know these things, how to stop, or what to do and what not to do. You have time to tell these, talk with them about life, talk and things about decisions, and give them room to do, and if they're not dangerous. So try to guide your teenager toward healthy groups. We come into that. Guide your teenagers coming to healthy groups and safe places. How you do that is normal for teenagers to feel comfortable in any groups. In fact, teenagers say they join illegal gangs because they want safety, companionship, economy opportunity, and excitement. Those some things can be provided by health groups and carding and caring adults who are good for kids. Try to help your kids find a good gang group to run with in places where teenagers can congregate and be supervised and guided by responsible adults who teach good skills and good values. Find out as much as you can about the resource for teenagers in your community, after school activities, sports, community groups, religious organizations often provide great opportunities. Try to help your teenagers find people and places they can truly enjoy and have very much interest with someone in meeting a same personality in commonality with. When you joining everybody, they lay a team like you, but that don't mean they have to be like you. That don't mean they have to do anything in the right way because they got kids like you. You gotta know their household and know them like you know yourself. They got them like you, but they don't have to be doing like you. That's why you talk with them and know who you're dealing with. Your teenager might benefit from a job or volunteering while in school to out of school for summer to give them skills in preparation of what their interests are and things they do, and in an adult way of coming into a job when they get to a one bigger, broader job than where they're working in some ain't demanding them in a lot, in volunteering or to a job they own to learn and grow how to handle decisions, how to do what they told, and from a supervisor like parents would or school would, in college would, in churches would, and God's word from leaders of all types and members, parents. People they know they can be respected and knowing the right way, not being misled the wrong way by people who don't have good intents for them because they lack life experience why they were crossing wrong things by thinking all adults leading them, telling them right could be wrong, and they motives they can't see or relate to anything but look at them as an adult. Don't have, pretty much the parent involved can make that decision what's right in that because they have life experiences to make better decisions and know things better than their children at that age has not had a life experience as a teenager, but they learning about things, but they haven't had that life experience in it like their parents and many others know. So by this would benefit your teenager doing this involving as far as after school or weekend or have a weekend jobs like they are if they in schools or doing weekday they may can't do it weekdays just weekends a little at a gradual point to come to bring more hours when they out of school for the summer they can earn their school clothes they can learn how to save to go do activities and things they like fun or things they just want to, buy things, games, gang box, or things, whatever it might be. You getting them to know making decisions like they would become an adult. They are young adults, but they're going to come more seeing how things they do themselves, seeing what they learned in the class skills, in the way they do and they academics doing to managing things they want and how to use money that way versus how to make decisions with the peer way versus how being on a volunteer way to a real job way on the weekends, after school or weekends jobs offer many teenagers a way to earn extra money, learn to work with people, practice responsible behavior, and be accepted as part of the group. Paying jobs are not the only option. Of course, jobs and volunteer work can help your teenager realize that their responsibilities, behavior, and produces positive results, whether it's a paycheck or a billing or accomplishment. There are a few places to start looking for your children to be engaging in these ways, volunteering to job summer programs, by seeking online information in your local states, youth programs, or contact someone know of them, can give you that information in all 50 states to local, what you can do, and they can be glad to help us with that information line, and they can give you what to do in that area. Using more than 15, they won't get no more than 15 to work more than 15 to 20 hours a week. That's part time. Has shown to have a week has been shown to have uh, a negative effect or on school performance. You may need to help your teenager find the right balance. If some working in a job coming with poor grades and skipping their work, they both are important to do. Because in both, when they become an adult, it's going to work in their favor how to become in the form they need and it's going to go for their good. Otherwise, they will come to an understanding decisions made in school and being responsible who they got to report and work to in that way. Academic work would be the same as they do to a job they at, to whatever else. So now, it would teach them to have balance in the school way, reporting to work done that way, to being involved versus in the job way. So now, sometimes another area in the peer pressure, we're giving these tips to help them to be safe. Now we're going to discuss the peer pressure way of whether now it comes to parents being involved. When they don't, they lack what comes. Now, sometimes the best thing you can do is to help your teenager find a safe, quiet place. Sometimes they don't always have to be active. They'll come to that way themselves to regroup their thoughts. Too much out and about, your mind ain't giving you time to look at things you jumping in, making decisions in, or just doing anything in. You have to have time to regroup yourself, your body for rest, your mind to clear out and come to things what you refocus you in each day you come into with people to out anywhere. So now, not all teenagers need to do this, but nevertheless, some need safe activities. For all of us, there can be great value in having time to hanging out and relax and just be ourselves. Now, as a scripture I want to bring with this, Ecclesiastes 3. It's a time and place for everything. Time to go to bed, time to get up. It's time to go to school. It's time to have fun. It's time to go to church. It's time to go to work. It's time to, have activities. It's time to be with your family and things you do, gatherings, all kind of celebrations of purpose, if not yours, others, in families and friends that way, to whatever other way. These things all count in what we see and what's necessary in this way of knowing things, not because what people want you to think. You go with what you are in your house as a parent, and you go by what you can do. If you can't, then you'll make time when you can on the next time they have set for that to be. So now, um, I got a way to go in this. So I think I'm gonna give a little bit more because we're gonna have a 2 and 3 in this because this is a lot to share. This gonna sum it up today, and we'll come back on part 2 again. So these are the personal safety. They are in areas you live in your teenager's level of maturity. As you should know the level of maturity of your teenagers in their personal safety, places they go, and the people they with, and the influences, the decisions he may need to make about their own safety, as well as some of the limits you may need to meet. Set them. If they don't know how, you help them set them. Give them a reason why you're helping them to set a personal safety limit with who they're around, watching what they say or do, and knowing if they should say no, because it could be a lot of bad things they got planned, they don't. They around it and see what breaks out. Then later they feel they were sorry from joining them. That's the reason you need to talk with your children in a whole lot of ways. With the parents, with who they associate with, because they may be the same. Now, if they the same in the right commonality, doing like right away of like your perspectives and being involved and wanting them to do right choices, that, then fine. But if they're not that way and you don't know them, then that may be giving you time to engage with their parents, what their perspectives are, what they into, when they out of school, summer. You can know parents gonna know because they don't have the experience of life. They don't lack it. They know it and growing in new areas. Teenagers lack life experience and think things can be right, don't have to be. So we'll sum it up on this for now and come back to part 2. Uh, you'll see part 2 when it comes. Stay tuned. So this to complete for now. Talk about what's safe for your teenager in your neighborhood and your community. And so now don't hesitate to talk with parents or friends, teachers, and other adults in your neighborhoods for ideas that have worked for them and their children. Be sure you and your teenagers both know how to be street smart. For instance, some of your best guidelines might include walk in groups or with a friend for your teenager safety. Don't go to areas you don't know. Stay familiar with all streets at night. No hitchhiking. Avoid wearing flashy jewelry or clothes or anything that will attract attention. You're telling this to your teenagers for personal safety. Constantly observe your surroundings. Keep your hand free. Walk in competent and determined manner. What you know, what you see, what you're around in the different environments for your personal safety. These for your teenager personal safety. The most important thing is remember is that what it might be a behavior in one situation can be a risk behavior in another. Breaking up a tight or a fight between friends in a school, in a neighborhood, collide may be it could prevent may be safe. For instance, for breaking up a fight between strangers at a party may be dangerous. Walking down the street at night could be dangerous in a neighborhood and safe in another. It's more important for your teenager to be able to stop and think the risk and make safe choices than to memorize rules. You may want to go over this safety, personal safety with them every day they get up. They may say, I already know. You can write a little card and or some little lamination or card or something for them to look at every time if you ain't never seen them make good decisions. You want them to learn because these things will help them stay out of the path of predators waiting on the weak in teenager ways, waiting on the weak teenagers they can dominate and do in that way, set plots for fights, harm with guns, things like that. That's why parents need to be talking to their children. They think because they out and running everywhere, irrelevant. You still need to know who they playing with, who you around associating with. It don't matter what culture people getting by it as a color thing. No, it's a behavior thing to know influences, who you associate with, and why. Now try to help your teenager to finalize it today. We'll pick back up on part two as you stay tuned for the Faith Talk discussion. But I want to give a little bit more after I read this out what I'm saying on this, then I want to sum it up and we'll come back on part two after I give my perspectives from God's way. Try to help your teenager feel safe and confident and not fearful. When you're talking with your child about what's safe and what's not, try to give your advice in a way that help your teenager feel more in control so they can be careful and alert but not afraid. You don't want them afraid in places they go for putting them in a fear state of mind. Just tell them it ain't that. It's a safety way that they can avoid people in paths may be waiting to do harm to them. They don't know, and they can look like they right, and they outwardly way with cards to doing. They don't have to be right. You have to be up on people and things they do because the people doing things like that can become harm for you. It don't matter about the cultures they are from. You have to. It ain't by their cultures. It's by what you know and behaviors. All diversity got people doing good to bad, and it's not judging. It's my expertise of learning and knowing, but you have to be aware of this way to know what purpose, right perspectives of decisions to make and who to be around by learning and observing them. That's what kids and you do in school by monitoring who they're around, watching how they do talk and act to know what not to be with. They observe that when they around in school, learning each other, how they behave with others. You learn a lot if you observe people and see. You will learn a lot about them. They may not tell you nothing about them, but if you watch and observe how they talk, what they do out, how they behave in things with others and different. You'll get it. Each path you on at all points, you will grow, you will learn, and you will definitely understand the purpose of it all. Now, this concludes now part of part two, but we will come back to it on the next Faith Talk discussion. The blessing. The blessing is once you get all your child need in it, then they can come to understanding why you communicate to know where they at, who they with, are they safe around where they at and who they associating with. That's important versus where they go in neighborhoods, to schools, any outings, anywhere you want to be in communication with your child, because you don't want them in something destructive, hurt, and pain to feel I lost my child, someone hurt them, harm them. You definitely got to be up on them no matter what it is. People should not think outwardly about people, but know what's in the diverse people they're dealing with. As a parent to anything, it doesn't matter. You need to still know the parent and what they do versus your own life. If you don't take time to involve with the youth they involve with, some of the parents can be great and no issues, and they in common with you doing like you agree with the way you are, knowing where whereabouts and what are they doing and all the things coming in the school way of doing to the community neighborhood way, to the community way, and then when they out of school, they got something to do and they're not lingering and running all around in mess, connecting with anybody, because that's where the failure of the parent is at, not talking with their youth or not learning what they in, or observing to invite the friends over, have a pizza gathering, just to have a movie on, you observing it, but you ain't already, you may step out, but and you just doing that to get to know and grow with their family, parents, or that youth they running with, outdoor yard, summer parties, maybe movie thing, about cookout thing, whatever it might be for the time of them doing that, you still should be involved to know these people in the way God wants you to, but a safety, personal way, in all manners. They don't fall in things that help right for them in their association to the youth, to anything else. I'm the host, Donna Herring. Faith Talk discussion, the blessing. Again, stay tuned for the following part two in teenagers, violence, and learning about parents being involved with them in communications, in their associations, to their activities, to helping them know how to make the right decision if it's a conflict, to trouble people that want to stir up them in the youth, to things anywhere they go to make a decision. They may some you can back up if they ain't unhealthy, unsafe, and they fall to show where they made arrows. They get help to grow back in, to stand firm in. Till next time, be blessed. Bye bye.